Hey, over? Good. Hey, thanks for attending the panel on mobile wallets. Before I get started, I wouldn't mind doing a quick survey. I wasn't here today. Audience-wise, how many people are from retailers? Okay. Banks or financial institutions? Which one, by the way? Okay, so guys, keep note of who we cannot. Okay, mobile operators, no, right? Brands, marketers, prepaid companies? Great. Excellent. Spies from Apple or Android? No. Okay, so my name is Frank Maduri. I'm here from BlackBerry, and I'm pleased to host this panel with these distinguished guests. And the topic is one that's really close to me. I've been working in the mobile payment space for a number of years. There hasn't been any progress. I don't think there's any correlation between that. I think that's not because of me. But it's easy to be very skeptical and cynical. I was telling them earlier that a lot of people that work in my organization or had worked in my organization on mobile wallets, you know, they suffer from post-traumatic stress, right? Because everyone gets this initial excitement about it, but it gets blown away over time because it's hard to get anything done. Ultimately, I think we'd all agree that, you know, even though there hasn't been a big success yet, I think we all believe that one day you will be able to use your phone as a wallet of some sort, whether that's to present a loyalty card, a coupon, an offer, access a building, or make a payment. So ultimately, it's going to happen. It's a matter of when, how, where, or what. Right? So today I'd actually like to address those 5 W's and an H. I don't know where I forgot that letter from. But what I'd like to do before we get started is I'd like the panel to go through and quickly introduce themselves and, you know, talk about, you know, what they do, how their company is relevant in mobile payments, like what role they play, and anything else that's related to this topic. And I'll hand over to you, John.
Sure. John Squire with CARDFREE. Spoke this morning. We focus on making merchants mobile, white-labeled mobile commerce solutions from CRM, loyalty, offers, order ahead, to payments. Here what we're talking about. The original team that built the Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts applications.
Syndi from AIMIA, and we are a global loyalty company operating in 30 countries, and we are focused in lots of different areas on the proprietary as well as coalitions and B2B2C initiatives. So been very involved in the whole mobile commerce space and look forward to the conversation.
Hi, I'm Ted VanDeburg with First Data, and I'm in the prepaid group, but First Data, beyond prepaid processing, is responsible for the acquiring transactions, issuing, and secure vaulting for mobile transactions.
I'm Gresh, CEO of North America for ZNAP. ZNAP is a mobile commerce solution that integrates coupons, loyalty, one-to-one communication across several different channels, face-to-face, in-store, online. We're in 20 countries. We have basically positioned ourselves as the first unique player that can go across multiple channels with all seamlessly integrating all those things together, loyalty, coupons, one-to-one.
Hi, my name is Nicolas Dinh. I'm the mobile product lead for MasterCard in Canada. I'm responsible for everything mobile contactless. And so mobile contactless today takes advantage of our very strong PayPass footprint here in Canada. When I took on this role, I was very fortunate enough to inherit a very strong acceptance footprint. And the goal for MasterCard is to help our partners get into market with a mobile commerce / mobile payments solution, leveraging this footprint. Obviously, we know that the world is becoming more and more connected. We do feel that, you know, mobile PayPass, mobile contactless is a way to conduct commerce, but we also see the blurring of lines between online and offline commerce. So, you know, we don't have, you know, e-commerce or m-commerce or mobile payments, contactless mobile payments. All we have is commerce, and the vision for MasterCard is to combine all that into a single payment solution.
Hey, there's like a 1-minute limit. You went over it. No company plugs, okay? Hey, so my first question is actually, I forgot, there's like 5 W's. Why not? But before I ask them why hasn't it happened yet, you know, unless we've missed the boat and there are examples out there, has anybody actually used a mobile wallet out of curiosity? Put up your hand. And just yell out which one, because SureTap. Wow, okay, cool. So SureTap, CIBC, Starbucks, ISIS, Google Wallet, I'm trying to think what else, Apple Passbook. You know, in terms of success and comparing to commercial products, none of them have been successful. Why not? I'll start with you, John, and anybody else afterwards.
Bit of a loaded question. So I would take that market by market, as we were talking about before. So I think when you look at certainly the U.S., Starbucks by far has had more success than anybody. But again, I think it's a misnomer to call it, they would never call it until recently, a mobile wallet. It's really a one-to-one vehicle to interact with their customer base, and all the merchants we work with could care less if it's a wallet or whatever it would be. It's the touch point to work with their consumers. Stepping back from that, though, we've obviously made a bet, having served all three masters before, whether it's financial services, carriers, or merchants, for the past 6 or 7 years, that merchants were going to hold the keys to this environment. And I think you have seen success when you look at the numbers between Dunkin' and Starbucks. It's closing in on 17 million users. You lump together ISIS, Google Wallet, PayPal, everybody else that's doing mobile, all together, you get about 3 million. So I think merchants are clearly clearing the path for success. I think we've got some short-term hurdles to get through and still a lot of disparate systems out there. I think there will be an aggregate play, particularly when you ask me, when will my aunt in Idaho be able to use something? It's not going to clearly be one standalone app, but we're years away from that, not months, years.
So your answer as to why not is, it is in the case of retailer-type applications that allow you to pay and loyalty. Otherwise, the rest are not. Okay, Syndi or whoever else next.
There needs to be be able to distinguish payments versus wallets, right? When you're looking at payments and being able to conduct a transaction, there's a lot of work and a lot of investment that has made to be able to have that happen. And it can occur today. But when you're talking about wallets, what's in our wallets today, right? There's so many things in our wallets, way too many things in our wallets. And so when it comes down to getting the value adds, right? Not only from a loyalty perspective of, on the broader sense, incentivizing, rewarding, being able to interact and connect, but it's also about making my life easier, simpler from a consumer perspective. I was using the example earlier about, well, in a smaller group, with regards to my receipts. Not only would it be great to have it digitized, but if those transactions or the amounts and the data can go into a budgeting tool, that would save me so much time when it comes to taxes, right, and doing my income taxes. So that's a problem that would be wonderful if it can actually address. So I think it's about the broader sense of what is a wallet versus a payment app versus an overall interaction app that's on a one-to-one relationship, as it was already mentioned.
Hey, so I'm going to try, I don't mean to do this, so if I paraphrase, there's not enough utility, there's no value, you're not, payment works, you're not fixing that's broken. Great. Next.
Yeah, that's a very accurate point. It was a little bit of early attempts were like a solution looking for a problem. It's just because the technology could do something doesn't mean that consumers wanted to do that. But when you look at the cases that are having success and consumers and merchants are gravitating towards, it's about their brand, it's prepaid, it's gift card. Gift card being the best marketing solution in the history of the universe, just to set a foundation here. And I say that with real conviction here. Who enjoys getting gift cards?
Of all time?
Yeah.
Okay, universal.
Of all time, yeah. Who enjoys getting gift card? Okay, everyone, anyone who didn't raise their hand is a communist.
You're not getting one, by the way.
Yep. But really, when you think about it, of all the marketing, branding initiatives, a gift card, when you receive it, there is clear intention you're going to go spend that, right? No other marketing, you don't get these guarantees with other things. Prepaid, you've set aside the funds, you're going to go use them. Whether you're the giver, the receiver, or you're self-purchasing, there is amazing intent there with prepaid. But it's been anonymous in the past. These were just account numbers. Everybody knew the benefits of that as a marketing solution. Now we're connect it with the mobile, the digital data, and you can tie in loyalty, you can tie in information, a dialogue with the consumer. So previous attempts, solution looking for a problem. Now we're getting in, you add prepaid, you're solving some real needs there.
Hey, so kind of just make sure I got it, like trying to paraphrase. So right now, big driver will be prepaid. That's what you're saying.
I believe so.
But there are a bunch of prepaid type wallets out there, and every time I see a mobile operator, right, and they're issuing a prepaid MasterCard Visa, they've all been catastrophic failures. So I guess going back to John's point is you're talking about more of a merchant type of a prepaid card.
Right.
Okay, good.
All right, getting back to the original question of why e-wallets aren't taking off in many, many cases. Consumers suck when it comes to adopting new payment technologies. I mean, when you think about credit cards, it took 30 years for credit cards to become mainstream. Some of the successes out there, financial instruments that have worked, they've worked because consumers or payees have been limited in their options and what they could use. When I wake up in the morning, again, I'm not thinking about what payment instrument I'm going to use to buy that new golf club. I'm thinking about the golf club, so I agree. It's the brands, it's the retailers that are going to drive the adoptions that's needed. Now, the other aspect of this whole thing is, in North America, I think there's like over 200 e-wallets or mobile solutions that are out there. There's a tremendous amount of noise, fragmentation. I don't think you're going to see one single player that's going to surface above them in any time soon. It's going to be players that are focusing on niche markets, that are focusing on solving some problems, taking friction out of a certain niche market that just so happens to be attached to an e-wallet or some sort of payment.
Okay.
I think the business of payments itself is extremely complex, not only from a business perspective, but also from a technical perspective. So when you look at all the players that have to kind of rally together and pull things together to make or to put out a mobile payment solution, you have merchants, you have acquirers, you have issuers, TSMs, handset manufacturers. So the landscape is extremely complex. It's really hard to get people in place to do and work towards a common goal. So I think that's one of the reasons why it's been quite a challenge. Other reasons as well, like today, in terms of using your phone to pay, is that really incremental value that you're delivering to the cardholder or to the consumer? Arguably, your piece of plastic is a far superior product. It's used everywhere. It's accepted everywhere. It's not that difficult to pull out a piece of plastic to tap to pay. Some feel that pulling out your phone, entering a PIN, a password, passcode, that's even more challenging than using your piece of plastic. So I think, again, going back to the message of how do we deliver more value to cardholders, it's through things such as value-added services like gift cards, like couponing, like loyalty. So just ask any of the hundreds and thousands of startups out there trying to get into this startup business or getting into this payments business. Many of them have had a challenge trying to break into this space. Even ask Google, like, how did they fare with their wallet? So I think over time, I think things will work out, especially when we have more common standards and specifications and really common objectives. But for the most part, it still has been a very kind of challenging trek for all players in this ecosystem.
Yeah. So I'm going to try to summarize, and I do want to ask everybody in the crowd what they think. There was a couple of people that said they use SureTap, but it sounds like it's all about there's not enough utility and value, and where you are able to focus in terms of you get a retailer to focus on a complete offering to the consumer, like in the case you're talking about, or using prepaid, or utility in the form of receipts and being able to track your expenses. It sounds like, hey, that's impactful. If you're just replacing the card you have in your wallet right now, that's probably not enough, and it's tough to do, by the way. And I agree with Nick, because we've gone through this together. It's hell. Quickly, SureTap, yes, no, medium, any comments? Out of curiosity. Do you find it valuable?
No.
Pardon me?
It's a no.
Okay. Do you have the prepaid card, or are you using your SIP? And you don't mind loading it with funds to pay?
Load it up.
It's very simple.
Very simple.
Okay. I think you're a plant from Rogers. No.
I agree, but it's the value add is very limited. It's not. There's some uncertainty. Whenever you load an app on your phone, there's some uncertainty as to whether you'll be successful. So you need to type in your PIN. You can type in the right PIN, or sometimes it gets delayed because your phone is slow and you're sitting at the point of sale, cashier, and waiting for your phone to load up or whatever it is, right? So there's some uncertainty. So there's a lot of. You need the value add.
Right.
Just that's not enough.
Yeah, there's not enough. Right? Hey, so maybe the next question is why not? We went through. It's like, so what will do it, right? So like, I know you already gave a couple examples. Let's give a couple more. What do you think the first successful? And I hate the term wallet too, right? Mobile payment, mobile type application. What do they need to include beyond the expense application? Beyond what else do you think is required to make this valuable? Because clearly there's not enough value right now, and people's cards work just fine. And anybody can jump in any order.
Yeah, I'll just quickly jump in. So for us, I mean, we always equate payments, and payments is part of what we do, but it's literally the period at the end of the sentence. It's the words before and the words that come after that period that are important and influence the customer's experience. So I think transactions sit in the middle, but it's the whole customer engagement life cycle. So it's the we were talking about this bit this morning, right? How do I get you into the store? How do I offer you something that's meaningful in your life to actually change your behavior? Or you woke up thinking about a golf club and I knew you wanted a golf club. I now know it's on sale. Come down to Best Buy, well, not Best Buy, bad example, but come down to, hopefully they're not here. Come down to the store and actually get this between a certain window of time and a day part that I want you in the store, and then the transaction's great, that gets processed, everybody's been beat down on what that price is, and then it's how do I inform that afterwards with a surprise and a delight tied to golf balls that I know you like, or whatever it would be. But you've got to have the full customer engagement life cycle to make that utility of downloading that app and doing that extra step worthwhile on the back end.
Got it, okay.
I think the success will come from the merchant-consumer partnership, and when there are intermediaries that are trying to add value where they really don't belong, it's destined to fail. So, you know, we saw that if you look back if you were in the 50s or the 1960s and said who was going to bring us the video phone, right? Everybody would have said, oh, well, AT&T and, you know, the carriers at the time. Well, that didn't happen at all. It's a company called Apple and Skype, right? And this same thing that happened with the mobile carriers. Well, who's going to enable payments in the mobile device? Sprint, AT&T, and Verizon, and you know, it seems to be more, didn't really happen as much as the merchants launching their apps, creating that relationship with the consumers, adding more value, but with loyalty and incentives, keeping them coming back, making sure they feel rewarded, that they want to load their money in advance. They want to promote the brand, create that commitment and gift to their friends and family. So I think that's what's going to drive it. And when you have that pure relationship merchant-consumer, that may be housed in technology provided by others. We all keep our payment cards in different wallets. You pointed out, you know, you have a different wallet than I have, right? Because that is part of us. And I think that same thing can happen with mobile payments, but they may be housed in different applications and different wallets provided by different companies. But if you don't have that core merchant-consumer relationship, they won't take off.
I think the killer app is not going to be in the retail space. I mean, I know 95% of all the mobile solutions out there are focusing on the retail space, which is like 6% of a $500 trillion payments market. I think where you're going to find a lot more traction is in areas like healthcare, bill pay. I mean, there are places in the Caribbean where people have to take a day off of work to go sit and stand in line at a kiosk to pay all their utility bills. This is where mobile and payments are going to start taking off. Again, in those niche markets, those areas where people have a real pain and it obstructs their daily life.
So I think some food for thought. So there was an article on Gigome that was published, I think, yesterday, and I think they surveyed a whole bunch of youths in the U.S. as well as in Canada, and what they found out was that this demographic really doesn't mind the idea of having a digital giant. It could be an Apple, a Facebook, an Amazon, provide them financial services. So we're seeing that these new entrants, these digital giants, potentially could earn this trust relationship with a younger demographic to provide these services. And on top of those services are the other services that a Facebook or an Amazon or an Apple provide, right? So I think these are some of the new entrants that potentially can come in and disrupt this space. It's really interesting to see this, but I think we can't rule them out as a prospective player in this space.
Yeah. So it sounds like, and I like your point about the bill payment and stuff like that. I was in Indonesia last week, and we had launched, you know, I can't share too, we had launched a money transfer service using our messaging platform, and it works on Apple, iPhone, Android. And we thought, you know, it was received fairly well, right? But it was funny, the biggest use was bill payment and airtime top up, right? And that was a big problem, is people didn't want to go get on a bus, you know, to go pay a bill, wait in line, you know, or go somewhere to buy a voucher to top up their phone, and they want to do that from their phone. So, it's sounding more and more like this got to be deep, whether it's a complete marketing campaign end-to-end, whether it's functionality you were talking about with expenses, or being able to pay your bill. I think all the attempts, for the most part, with the exception of Starbucks and a few others, they're lobbing out something that's not really solving a problem or addressing a pain point. I think that's the big thing, right? And that's what we're beginning to see. So it's funny when I go around and I meet a lot of mobile operators and they say, oh, here's what we're going to do. You look at them and they're all going to try to put a credit card on a phone, and you say, hey, my credit card works fine just in my wallet, thank you, right? And it's not until you do these things. Hey, so next question, it's kind of a funny one, right? And we talked about it a little bit when we met beforehand. So what do you tell these guys to do, the retailers? How do they get started? Because you do something, excuse my language, half-assed or small, it may not be received well, but you want to get started too, right? So how would you recommend a retailer proceed? And who shouldn't proceed? Who should, who's not ready to do this?
Should I just keep going first?
Yeah, you're lucky. He sat there strategically.
So we usually sit down with whoever we're working with, just using us as an example, and go through the first literally 6 weeks of putting the assets on the table that they have to come to play, right? Whether or not they have a prepaid program, whether they have a loyalty program, a point-of-sale vendor that they may or may not like, CRM they want to dislodge, and then come back with that ROI. We kind of gave a shining example of that this morning that makes sense for them, and then a plan of attack. That plan of attack is usually 24 to 36 months from a product roadmap standpoint.
Wow.
And it usually starts with a very basic iterative approach. If you remember when we first launched Starbucks, it was all about line speed and payment. That's it. Loyalty wasn't even involved then in the first 17 stores. When we expanded out, loyalty was another bite at the apple to bring in, pun intended, Apple, to bring in new customers. So it's really about figuring out what works for them. In the case of like a Taco Bell, I don't think it's any great secret, they're doing order ahead, and a big part of their play and a win for them is menu expiration. In the case of a Sonic, it's really the experience between the store and the guy in the rollerblades and the phone. So it's working with your consumer to figure out what works, but you can't scorch the earth with everything day one, or you're never going to accomplish it. Look at ISIS, look at MCX, and kind of where those guys are.
Good.
I think for retailers, continue on with the CRM and the social listening and the marketing campaigns. But remember that mobile is not just a conduit, another channel. It's a very intelligent one. And so there's lots that can be done with mobile where there's a value exchange that can occur between the retailer or the brand within the retailer and the end consumer. Most consumers are willing to exchange some sort of, whether it's data, whether it's a transaction, whatever the case may be, as long as they're getting some sort of value for it. So imagine if you can leverage that mobile device in order to do that. So take little bits and pieces and make it a process, make it a journey. So ultimately, when it comes to incorporating payments and getting POS redemption, and then putting in other functionalities that'll draw the value adds for the end consumer. Ultimately, as long as you're making it easier for them, that you're able to communicate with them, and that they feel that they're being communicated to, that they feel that they are important to you, then you will have that relationship for a long time.
Yeah, I'd say just jump in. That's the first step, is do something, crawl, walk, run. You have to start somewhere. An example, something I remember as a consumer, even with the successful launch of the Starbucks app, they hadn't quite figured out the drive-through, because there was a period of time when people would hand their, they'd pull up the barcode on the phone and hand it through the window, and then sometimes drop them, and then there was the little problem of whose fault that is, who's liable for the broken phone. They didn't stop and wait until every single detail was figured out. It took some time, took a few months before they deployed scanners to their stores that they would hand out the window to people so they could scan their own barcode, right? So that's an evolution, it's an adaptation that you can learn over time. So the point is, we see people that are waiting and waiting and waiting till everything's perfect. And that perfect is never going to happen, because the world evolves, everything changes. So start with the basic data, learn who your customers are, start collecting that, and you will get more advanced and button things up over time.
I think there's two answers to that question. The first one is merchants are weary about acceptance of various different mobile solutions, because obviously the adoption is tough. And when you do the ROI, you really have to incent heavily to get people over that first use. Now, the research shows that once you get them over that first use and it's a good experience, then they continue to start using it, but there's a cost to that. So we recommend to the merchants is, yes, think of mobile as a channel by itself, but it's also sort of a universal solvent that when you can put in a platform that can be used across all your channels, be it face-to-face, in store, knowing that you're going to be cannibalizing some of your business, you have to accept that, but at the same time, you'll be building data across channels, you'll be able to map it to different channels, you'll be able to do a lot more things from segmenting your, your audience, segmenting your consumer base. The second thing is, we usually just recommend, okay, dip your toe in the water. Where are you not selling stuff right now? Are you selling stuff in the subway stations? Are you selling stuff by downloading a virtual catalog out there in the middle of a field during a concert? Find things that really represent a true alternative revenue source for them, leveraging mobile. And if they like that, they get some consumers to adopt, then you can start planting more seeds across all your other channels until you build yourself up a, a nice brand recognition and consumer base to use the phone to do a lot of different things.
I think no one really kind of wakes up and says, I have to make a payment. Like, payment itself is just a part of a shopping experience. And so consumers and shoppers are looking for better, more engaged, more interactive shopping experiences. And mobile itself is a channel that you need to leverage because consumers or shoppers entering into your stores will be carrying connected devices, and this is a channel for you to be able to present to them targeted offers, be able to understand and know your customer better. And in the end, if part of your strategy is to enable that transaction, good. That's a good part of the good functionality within that application. But overall, I'd say go ahead, dabble in mobile, try to figure out a way to make it valuable to not only yourselves but to your consumers and to your customers, and then look at creating some value and really expanding on the functionality to support some form of payment at a later stage.
Okay. Hey, so retailers, put up your hand quickly. Keep them up, okay? No, come on. And how many, hey, put it back up again. Put down your hand if you don't have a prepaid card. I'm just curious. So none of you have prepaid cards? Are you guys just shy? Okay, so half of you, it seems, is that half? Have prepaid card. So is prepaid a big enabler? Is that back to, the reason I'm thinking about that is getting started. If I have a prepaid card, is that a good place to start? I know Nick's answer, but I'll let you go. I'll let Nick go first. Go ahead, that's not fair.
Yeah, I think prepaid is a very low barrier to enter payments. If you already have a prepaid card, there's a possibility for you to take that prepaid card, digitize it, and have it provisioned or downloaded into your mobile wallet or mobile application. So I think prepaid card is definitely the first place to start, and it allows you to get into this transaction services space, and allows you to provide an app that will allow you to really engage with the customers, allow them to pay for goods and services.
So before the rest answer, whoever said they had a prepaid card, how many have a mobile app as well, out of curiosity? Okay, so there's a good correlation then. So they have an app that they could put their digitized card in. Okay, so keep going. I apologize. That might help.
At least with all the pursuits and customers that we've brought on board with ZNAP, prepaid is always an interesting option. Most e-wallets are going to be agnostic to the financial instrument that goes in them. It'll be ACH, it'll be debit, it'll be credit card and prepaid. If the platform's built correctly, it doesn't really matter what it is. So we don't normally have that conversation. Now, there's economics associated with prepaid as opposed to ACH, as opposed to the the interchange associated with credit cards. So that sometimes becomes a topic of interest, especially with high volume, low price tag type stuff. But at the end of the day, again, it's about selling more stuff and making more conversion from either your virtual shopping cart or capturing some impulse behavior that you normally would not be able to capture to get somebody to buy something. So at least in our business, what we're seeing, prepaid isn't really a driver for mobile or e-wallet acceptance.
That's surprising. I think
Call him a communist.
Hey, come on, calm down, guy. Hey, get the
really the customer who has the merchant's prepaid card, the closed loop card, is your best customer ever. They've made a commitment to spend the money in your store, right? So if they did that themselves, the self-spender, that's huge. I mean, why would you do that? You don't get paid any interest, right? It's because you're a rabid fan of the particular merchant, right? If you gift it to someone, if you are the gift sender, you are an amazing person because you are promoting the brand. And you're not getting paid. What's the cost per thousand for that? Oh, wait, there is no cost. You're getting paid for someone to promote your brand, right? So that's an amazing person. And then the receiver is someone, they have that money, they're gonna spend more than the prepaid card amount in most cases, 86% of the time. So the prepaid customer is your best customer. Let's get more data on them. Let's treat them like the gold that they are, the royalty that you should be treating them like. And I think mobile is a great way to begin that interaction and turn them from that anonymous account number, which is the best thing to ever happen to your company, and let's put a name on it. And let's start understanding them better, because they are your biggest advocates, they're your most loyal customers, they've pre-committed money to you to come into your store and spend even more.
I understand that there's some retailers with prepaid cards and mobile apps. I'm actually curious, because this is supposed to be an interactive, engaging conversation. What are the experiences out there? Right? Do you find more prepaid being used, sold because of your mobile apps? Are you getting more data?
Retailer? Anyone able to talk about it? Oh, Rebecca, who's kind of a quasi-retailer in a past life.
Yes.
Could you
I dabbled in retail.
say who you are, where you come from, and some long walks along the beach?
Well, I was born in a small town in Washington State on a Navy base. Currently, I'm with Ogloba. I have over 15 years of experience in the prepaid industry with Blackhawk Income, 1-800 gift certificate with this guy a long time ago. But when I was working with the retailers, and most recently as the executive director for the Retail Gift Card Association in the States, one of our biggest concerns for our members, the retailers, was it's cheap. So even though mobile is a phenomena, of a tool to get all this data and information, when you're tying the holder's date information with that card number, then certainly in the States more than you are experiencing it here in Canada right now, you have the biggest cheat issue. Yeah. So I'm not sure if that's been one of the barriers from the retailer side as to, going full guns.
I've heard that as a concern, but I think it's a false concern because both breakage and escheatment are failures of your program. That means the customer didn't spend their money. It means they don't like you, actually. It was so it was a little bit of a false.
You're not treating them like royalty, right?
right.
But they are.
So I would confront any merchant who wants to plan for failure. You want to plan for success, and that would mean driving people to spend their money. And mobile actually enables even more of that. So now you know who they are, you know how to contact them. You can actually encourage them to spend their money. You can with of course there's BLE out there. There's different ways to know when the customer comes in the store. You can contact them. You can understand why they are doing what they do. So I think escheat and breakage are kind of old. They were crutches. They were sort of they were excuses of, oh, we're making this money and we're making it really easily by not doing anything. Well, it's in fact a failure because that's a customer you didn't get to come in your store. Okay.
And I'm sorry, can I follow it? I agree with that to a point. I think, escheat and breakage is an outdated model, and it's it's still being utilized, just people don't talk about it. But when you are a brand that sells, millions of gift cards a year, and you may have $1 or $2 left on those gift cards, it's not that that merchant actually missed out on driving somebody into their store, because it's just a small incremental amount that's left over from the overall balance. So then, that accumulates and then becomes this huge number that the press likes to exploit. When you break it down, it really isn't per person. Anyway, just wanted to throw that out there.
It's a good point. And there also are legal maneuvers and configurations that can avoid it in the end. So there are ways that the merchant can be shielded from knowing the actual consumer data by assigning them this universal ID. John talked about before in the model, to be able to track the consumer without actually tying them to the financial account. So there are strategies to really avoid it for those small amounts, the leftover amounts, like you said.
Can you take the mic from her so I can get back control of this panel?
Can I ask a question? Now that I have the mic,
Can
can
we
I
run
ask
the
a
next, or
question?
did you have any? No? Okay. Hey, so just maybe a couple seconds or minutes on technology, because we have to, right? So everyone's heard of NFC, right? Yes? Okay. You guys are tired. So wink or something, right? So how about Bluetooth low energy? Okay. Is it a red herring? Like, how important do these things play in this? Are they going to be, do you see them being utilized as part of your solutions for your customers, or irrelevant?
BLE, and specifically BLE, is being leveraged a lot in our current marketplace right now, just because it's cheap, it's easy to plug in, you don't have to mess with your point of sale, and you can get some really quick learnings. I don't think it's a long-term solution. I think it's a 1 to 3 year kind of solution until NFC or whatever it will be figures itself out, and there'll probably be 3 or 4 more like it. But for $15, $20, it's something I can plug in the store and push some messaging to my customer and get some quick learnings. Everybody we're working with is either interested in doing it or doing it.
And doing it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's nice that it doesn't drain the battery of the phone as much as GPS-based technologies did at first.
Okay.
I think in technologies in general, that's what they are, to be deployed, to be implemented, to be mixed with each other, to integrate with each other, so that you get the most value of each and every one of them, which ultimately is to drive sales, know your customers better, interact and communicate better with your customer. So whether it's NFC or QR codes or Bluetooth, that the whole shopping experience in the store, and then being able to communicate with them outside of the store, because you have that single line of communication through the mobile device. It's all that integration and how it's being used versus using one versus the other, or winning with one versus the other.
Okay.
Well, at ZNAP, anybody that thinks that, whether it's going to be NFC or whether it's going to be QR codes or beacon technology or low energy Bluetooth, I can keep going, audio wave. You know what? Who knows what the trigger is going to be that consumers feel most comfortable with? Everything now is coming out. QR codes. ZNAP decided to go out with what we call our flavor of QR codes is called Snap codes. Basically the same thing, only it's a proprietary code that only our app can understand and work with. So that QR code transcends above all the different channels where some of the other
But what technologies it's too soon, for people to dabble and play with? Which ones are, hey, you know what, they're ready, or what are the considerations in them deploying a solution? That's kind of what I'm looking for.
Well, the ones that are ready right now, the QR code technology, it carries, unfortunately, a stigma of just being a URL link, when it actually can be used for a very secure proprietary transaction-based platform. NFC obviously has been out there for years now. It's going to have some great applications in certain industries, but even though Canada probably leads the pack in implementation, 20 or 30%, it's not going to work because it doesn't transcend across all those channels. And the big buzzword now is omni-commerce or omni-channel, meaning a platform that can work across all those channels. NFC has a limitation just from a trigger technology perspective, where something that's more visual and graphical, like a QR code, you can put a QR code anywhere and trigger that transaction securely. And then you have the geofencing capability combined with the beacon technology, or you could be watching your TV TV and an audio signal comes across, activates your app. You know what we're doing at ZNAP is we're hedging our bet. We're developing every single one of those technologies because each of them has a specific advantage in a specific vertical industry. E-wallets are failing because, like everybody else has been saying on this, it's just not compelling enough for the user or the merchant to use. So you have to focus on what happens before and after the payment. That is where you're going to get your traction. And then you don't have something that's going to cascade all across those industry verticals. You're going to have a slightly different solution for each vertical industry. And so any e-wallet that thinks they're going to survive, perhaps so, but it's going to take like 10 years before some global brand acceptance mark gets into the market and sticks. The players that are solving problems for specific individuals in specific vertical industries are the ones that are going to win. You're going to see a nice consolidation of the marketplace with startups and early stage companies combining because they're complementary fits. This is going to be a very exciting year for mobile. I don't think it's going to be exciting for the Googles and the PayPals of the world, but it's going to be very exciting for the smaller players that have truly created some disruptive technology, and they're going to combine forces, and you're going to see a couple of major players start emerging as a result of it.
Hey, before we go to the next person, just to make sure, but what I'm trying to understand, and I think I got the answer, so I'm going to say it, and you're going to say, no, I got it wrong, and correct me. It sounds like QR code, like is probably something, the lowest common denominator is going to work on all phones and everything, right? I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I am, right? And Bluetooth is ready, like in terms of, so if you wanted to cobble together a solution and hit your customer base, we're not talking about bleeding edge stuff that they're going to be on the leading edge of science. It's like this stuff works. NFC is cool and it could happen and whatever, but is that right or no? Okay.
I think you're right.
Yeah. And I'm not saying it's going to make it work. If you have a lowest common denominator, right? Hey, every phone accepts a QR code, but it's not compelling, it's not enough value. It's useless. It's got to be a combination of both. Similarly, it could be a great application and very useful for you, but that none of the phones have NFC. Okay. Sorry. So go ahead, Nick.
No. So I think there's a challenge with creating acceptance for new technologies like Bluetooth LE or beacons. I think at MasterCard here in Canada, we've been doing NFC for the past 8 years, and we're at a point where we're getting a lot of scale. So I think last month, about 18% of all our domestic transactions in Canada were tapped. So we're getting to the point where we're starting to create scale, and we're getting adoption in terms of tap rates. For us to change and shift gears to a new kind of technology at the point of sale, that's going to be another challenge, another lift, which may not happen within the short term. But at MasterCard, we're looking at this long term. So one thing that we're doing is we're creating a new transaction type called digitally secured remote payment. So really, it's the whole idea of using an EMV cryptogram over any transport layer, right? So whether it's going over Bluetooth LE, over Wi-Fi, or mobile network connection, or NFC, what you'll get is a EMV transaction over a contactless / wireless connection. We do believe that there are advantages with an EMV transaction over a magstripe transaction. Inherently, the transaction is more secure. It could be PIN verified, and it follows and meets EMV specifications. So I do believe we'll get to a point where we can leverage this technology in store for any mode of payment, whether it's BLE or whether it's NFC / Wi-Fi, 3G, 4G, LTE. At the same time, this could be also used for more secure e-commerce, m-commerce transactions. So you could be at home shopping on your laptop. You're able to trigger an EMV transaction from the comfort of your own home. You have a transaction that is more secure. There's less fraud tied to it. So there are benefits to all the players in the ecosystem.
Okay. So John, were you going to?
I was just going to point out, usually BLE in our world is not being used for payments, obviously. It's really just marketing.
Geolocation type,
Yeah.
Okay. So you brought up something, and to be fair to NFC, maybe Canada is a unique place. Is it? And maybe, questions for all of you, but I'm going to ask you first, because I've been there X years ago when you guys were putting contactless. It's pretty prevalent, right?
Yeah, I think Canada is a great market for contactless, and part of it is we took the EMV migration and we decided to roll out contactless with that. And so we were able to gain scale both on the issuance side as well as on the acceptance side through some very clever deals that we were able to strike initially. But if you look down to our neighbors down south, you hardly see any contactless acceptance. But there are markets that are starting to catch up to us. So for example, Australia is a market where we're seeing huge volumes in terms of contactless transactions, both on credit and debit. Markets like Poland and Turkey, where there isn't legacy to deal with, they've gone and they've deployed contactless. There are also other markets in Europe that have gone out and said, we're going to mandate contactless. So if you're deploying a payment terminal, it has to be contactlessly enabled. So we are seeing that contactless is being deployed in wide scale. We're hoping that the US follows suit as well in terms of being able to deploy that technology as part of their EMV migration. But we're still very bullish on NFC, and Canada is a great market for this.
Hey, so we're kind of running out of time. There's two other topics. One is about who, and I'm not a mobile payment junkie or anything like that, like who's going to win the mobile wallet, whatever. But it sounds like, and I'm going to make a provocative statement, that the only way that you can add value, right, or a lot of value, the only way that you can actually deploy a solution that works, get it to market fast, is if you're the retailer and you're doing this. It sounds like, from what I'm hearing, is a retailer is the king. He's the one that's going to make this happen. If you look for some other third-party entity to try to control a bunch of other stakeholders, it's going to take a long time. It sounds like the retailer is the only one that could pick the right technology that addresses all their customers' needs, provide the right value, because it's their store, right? If they want to collect your data, make you an offer, or whatever. Otherwise, a third party, I'm not knocking you, Nick, but like that's what I'm hearing. Now, if it's great, like I want to fight or something, but comment on that. Do you agree, disagree?
Yeah, I think the two outliers right now are Apple and Amazon, right? With the number of cards they have on file and what they're up to, I think in the next 4 to 6 months, more so Apple could do something very interesting there.
Oh, so you think so? Okay.
Yeah, I do.
Even though they're not, they're kind of a retailer, but.
So they're less conflicted than Amazon, right? Because there's a certain set of merchants who will never consider Amazon a viable alternative for checkout, just because it directly compete.
So I think you think a winner could be Apple ultimately?
Not in a year, not in 2 years, but certainly could do something very interesting in the next 6 months to bring banks and merchants together, which nobody's really bridged successfully to date. But outside of that, I think the cleanest implementation where we're kind of going to spend our time is finding solutions for our partners, right? Yeah. And if those third-party wallets are interesting, do that work on their behalf. I'll kick it over to you guys.
Okay, good.
I agree that Apple has something interesting, but I question still, what is the value to the consumer? Why would I want to pay with my Apple ID? Just like I question as a consumer, why would I want to pay with PayPal? What does that get me? I type in my email address and my password versus swiping my payment card. And so the Apple thing, they're a brand, they're a lifestyle. Why would we use them for payments? That's kind of the open question in my mind.
But if I go back to John, I'm not disagreeing with him, but if you can actually tap into that and you're building a retailer's app, for lack of a better term, and the Apple wallet can fund you and they allow that sort of thing, then you're rocking and rolling.
Yeah, I think, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think there's a wearable component to this with them. I think there's an in-store experience that's very different in their stores. Okay. And then I think there's a non-threatening piece for the merchants, right? So for us, it becomes another funding mechanism, just like PayPal, Google, Facebook, that may be a lot more relevant for our merchant partners and a lot less contentious than a PayPal or a Google that's doing something with your data.
Right, because they compete in some cases.
Yeah.
Okay. Who else do you guys think are going to be
I don't know about winning and losing, but there'll definitely be some dominance, right? The dominance, I think, will depend on the region, whether it's a telco or a bank or a mass retailer.
We're in Canada.
We're
We're Canadian. We got 3 Americans on that panel, right? You're outnumbered. Well, remember, I'm up here. I'm on your side. So is Nick. So let's think about Canada. You're all Canadian, right? Yeah, I think so. Go ahead.
I think there's still, if it's the big players that are going to win, we'll see, or dominant. Forget about winning and losing, but be dominant. That's still left to be seen because they still haven't gotten there yet. But in the meantime, in the near term, I think there will be a bunch of closed loop, what we'll call closed loop, meaning a one-to-one type of relationship where brands and retailers will have their mobile application, which may incorporate payments or prepaid or whatever the case may be, so that you actually have that relationship with the end customer. But from a consumer perspective, ultimately, I may be okay starting off with 1 to 5 applications, individual applications, but after that, I'm going to want it all consolidated. So there'll probably be a rise of aggregators.
Right.
To be able to take all of that, be a container and bring it all in so that the one-to-one relationships aren't lost, But from a consumer perspective, it's a lot simpler.
Okay,
Right? But would that come from a big player? I don't know. I don't buy my physical wallet from a telco or from a bank, right? I buy from Michael Kors or, Kohl's or whomever, right? Kind of thing. So when you think about that, it's probably a non-branded container that'll be able to aggregate everything that will benefit me as a consumer.
So
And that's what's
fragmentation, and initially someone's going to aggregate it. That's okay.
And it has to work at the point of sale, too. I mean, today there are containers out there. There are plenty of apps. You can load in all your closed-loop cards, but to the point that was made in the earlier session, you can't use them.
Yeah.
You can't do anything with them. So that problem has to be solved. There has to be some consistency of how it can interact at the point of sale.
I'll just quickly comment that he or she that owns the most consumer relationships will probably be the winner at the end. And you're going to, again, see some consolidation. You're going to see some big players buying some small players that have some really unique technology. There are some dark horses out there that nobody has even thought of that are getting in the game. One of our partners, Pitney Bowes, they have 800,000 merchants using their bill pay and presentment, buying their stamp machines. These are players that have huge coverage, multi-billion dollars of resources that are going to get in the game. You have hardware providers that are looking for ways to evolve, like Epson and other players that catch all that data at point of sale and can easily develop a nice cloud-based POS system to take a big chunk of the market. A lot of dark horses out there. I think it's just like predicting the stock market. Nobody knows yet.
Yeah, I totally agree with that statement. No one really knows yet. In Canada, we're seeing issuer-branded wallets. We see telco-branded wallets. We have kind of merchant-focused wallets like the Yugo wallet. In the future, there may be open wallets, and MasterCard, we're building out solutions and platforms to enable that future where you can take any MasterCard credential, digitize that, and have it provisioned or stored into an open wallet. So these are all kind of go-to-market options that exist out there. Really, at the end of the day, it comes down to consumer adoption and consumer affection. If they like your wallet the best, if your wallet can deliver the most value and the most utility, you'll have the winner, right? So it's still we're really at the infancy stages right now of this whole journey, and I think things will start to kind of net out and emerge over the next 2 to 3 years.
Hey, so I'm going to make a comment, or go ahead.
Sorry, we have a question at the back, and we need to wrap up, so I'll
Go
let
ahead,
you
no,
do
it's
that. But you need to choose one person rather than have an answer from 5 because we only have less than 5 minutes. And then we're going to our last presenter, Mark from shop.ca, and then we're going to have drinks because I think we all could use one. Felipe.
Okay, so this is just going to be, I think it's more like a comment than asking for a question back, but it was a comment made at the beginning that all the wallets done so far have failed. And I don't think that because that was actually enabled us to be having the discussion today. Mm-hmm. But in thinking about not wallet as being just mobile goes way beyond that. And I think that there was a comment made about the consumer. And I think that it's the consumer who's going to drive acceptance, not the merchants, not anybody else. But is that true? Do you guys believe that? There were comments made about it, but it is truly the consumer who's going to drive adoption, or is it just a technology play?
The consumers will definitely drive adoption, but the consumers need to go somewhere, right? So the value has to come from somewhere. And whether it's the brands, the merchants, whether it might be the telco or the FI, whomever it is, the service providers that they want to call in the ecosystem needs to provide that value to bring the consumers along. But once the consumers see that value, then there will be kind of a snowballing effect, right? Not much different, especially in Canada, with the way that we adopt various different technologies very quickly. Well, relatively quickly, I guess, compared to other regions, is that once they are able to do something with the mobile application, wallet, whatever you want to call it, then they'll continue to use it. One just very quick anecdote is, despite the fact that I'm in this space, I had a very hard time doing my first contactless tap with my credit card, let alone my mobile phone. And it was only after talking to Interact that I made the promise, I'll actually try it once. I finally did it, and now I look for Flash, right? Mind you, I use debit more than credit card. But even with credit card, I use for the tap. So once people get over that little tap, and there's a reason for it, because it's now very easy for me, I continue to use it.
Hey, so let me say something. I've asked a lot of questions. I hope I answer your question. So I didn't mean to sound negative at all. So, I have a group that works on this stuff, right? And I don't want to discourage them. I genuinely believe that, and I'm not saying this because I did a poll. I genuinely believe that you guys you guys make the difference, the retailer. I don't think it's going to be a third party. I think down the road it will, whether they become a funding source or they provide a common way of paying or whatever. I think it's a retailer that can actually put, better experience together for me. So when I walk in a Starbucks, maybe now I don't have to show my phone. It says you want the same as last time, and I skip the first line, I go to the second line, or it gives me an extra star, or it communicates to me some new offer. So no one can do that other than the retailer. And I think you guys are empowered, and particularly you guys at this conference, if you do have vehicles, it doesn't have to be a prepaid card, but if you have one, you can start playing with that, right? So I think if we wait for whether it's a carrier, or a bank, or an operator, or some other third party, I don't think they can do that. They can't tell you what to do in your stores, only you can, right? So I think, what I've learned over the past X years is that, where you're going to see the value add is coming from the retailer, and yeah, that'll draw on the consumer. The consumer on his own can't do anything. He can only take advantage of what you guys put out there, right? That's what I think.
I want to make one comment, though, and I agree with Syndi that consumers are going to drive adoption, but it's just because the merchants are letting them. It's simple as that. You guys do have the power. You can blend that mix of interchange, prepaid transactions, debit interchange, all that to what you want it to be, but you got to get the balls to do it.
Great.
Tell us how you really feel, Greg.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, guys. Any more questions, comments, or?